to this computer. That doc file format is from the Warievo emulator. And it added a couple of, bytes to the header to indicate whatever. And that one of the funny things about that is that the site that Adam lists for all of those cartridges has an image for a 32K and a 64K RAM cartridge, right? But the file itself is like 9 bytes long.
Right.
Because it would
There's nothing in it, right? Yeah, I noticed the doc file was all zero, mainly zeros, because I think Kevin was mentioning it, but I guess it's just for that particular program, right, to tell it what's in there, because that has nothing to do with the the AROS or the LROS bytes. Those are still there no matter what. But
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, those first 9 bytes are specific to that Warievo
Docker,
program, which was
okay.
a DOS emulator. David, you know about that, right? I think we talked about that once or twice. Or maybe Gunter's emulator. I think we maybe talked about that. You're muted, David. Or maybe you're not muted, you're just not working.
I've used DOSBox on occasion.
Yeah.
But I don't know really very much about the insides of it or how it modifies files, or I'm just pretty much just a user.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Adam was just trying to, I guess he got his, what is it? It's an Android program.
Yeah.
But it was in a Docker, the Doc, I keep saying Docker because Linux, but but it was in whatever that doc format was, and I've never really done any kind of Timex emulation. I mean, when you have the machines, it's kind of might as well just use the machine, but it is more convenient, obviously. But I just never, my experience with making cartridges, like I said, when I made my diagnostic cartridge, yeah, you have to follow the the LROS or the AROS rules. Right. And he didn't know what LROS meant and what AROS, and I was like, honestly, I couldn't remember either, so I had to brush up on that. But basically, yeah, I guess if you wanted to take like a Spectrum ROM and make a cartridge out of it where it auto booted, right, that would be an LROS, because that's a language specific or language application. So that could actually overwrite the Timex ROM. You can, say chunk 0, auto start it. Obviously they don't do that with the Portuguese one, right? You plug, or do they do that in the Portuguese? I can't remember now. I'll have to try that. So, but I think it automatically starts up into Spectrum mode.
Well, so yeah, the Portuguese Spectrum, I don't remember which model is, but it is slightly different. The Portuguese 2016, and then it'll auto boot a Spectrum ROM.
Right.
But Jeff Feta, who's not here, and I were talking about this a while back, and we were having a very heated discussion about whether or not the 2068 could be made to auto boot a Spectrum ROM, and I was having a conversation just recently with Ariel Ranieri and Don Superfo on Facebook, and the signal that's necessary for this is the /BE, which is the it's actually bank enable on the expansion port and on the cartridge port. And so it occurred to me that if you pull the bank enable low from the cartridge port, you could in theory get the Spectrum ROM to auto boot. And I got it to a certain point. I got it to the 2 large white bars on the screen that is okay. Kevin Strickland is not here, or maybe it was Keith. That this other person on Facebook ran into with his 2068, and then we were talking a little bit more, and it occurred to me that the problem I was having was that it was sort of stalling in the memory testing process,
Mhm.
and it wasn't releasing the RAM, the RAM space.
Right.
So what I've not built yet, but I'm going to try is probably using a 74 LS138 to select the lowest two banks and putting the Spectrum ROM in there on a cartridge, so that when the thing boots, and pulling BE low, when the thing boots, it will boot, but then once outside of those two banks, it'll release. And that might actually work.
Hmm.
That's my working
David?
theory.
When I was building my interface, I ran across somewhere on the web that said that if you're booting the Spectrum ROM, you may have to write to port FF, and I can't remember the name or the value to write to that, because the video won't necessarily boot to a Spectrum compatible mode. And I did that in my interface, and I'm able to reliably get the Spectrum ROM to boot using the BE signal and all the stuff that you're talking about. So it may not be a problem with the hardware. It may be an issue that you have to, it said somewhere poke to port FF some value, and I could look at my code and find that.
Is this off the expansion bus, Jeff?
It's off the expansion bus, yes.
Yeah. So the way I have it set up with the little twister board that I make is a 74 LS138 set to activate the ROM when the two lowest banks are working, and then it acts like a Spectrum. So I just need to move that over to a cartridge, and it should do the trick. But I don't think you should have to poke any special value to I forget which I think that's not the horizontal select register, but I know which one you're talking about.
Port F, yeah, the video select register.
Right. The bank enable signal bypasses that.
The thing that I saw on the web said, though, that the SCLD may not always boot into a compatible mode. And since the Spectrum ROM knows nothing about the Timex video modes, you may never get video up.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Very interesting. I don't know if
And
I've
it might be interesting. Like I said, I have to try, I got my Portuguese 2068 here and the emulator cartridge, but I have to see, I think it auto boots. You don't have to do the out 244 or 244 dash whatever FF.
but that's port F. 244 is port FE, and Jeff is talking about port FF.
Right. He's talking about the video ports, but I mean, how do they get that emulator cartridge to boot? Because I mean, like you say, when you make a cartridge, you have those extra, I think it's 8 bytes, right, for the LROS.
Yep.
Or the AROS. I mean, those are the header bytes that have to be there for any cartridge. So all the code will be offset a little bit, right? 8 bytes offset. But yeah, I don't. That's kind of interesting to think about. How would you get it to like boot from a 00? Because that Z80 boots from 0, right?
Yeah.
Address 0 when it boots. And so how would it? How would that memory map? Or does the cartridge, automatically kind of put that to 0000?
The cartridge
0008.
If you design it so that BE is being held low on boot, then you completely bypass all of the boot code in the 2068 ROM.
Yep.
And when you enter, you'll enter into address 0 of the Spectrum ROM.
Okay. Well, maybe that's how the Portuguese one does it. And I didn't take the cartridge apart, but I'm sure there's no extra circuitry in there other than maybe, like you said, holding the BE low, so that when that cartridge turns on, that it just goes straight to the the cartridge.
Right. Obviously, BE has to be configured so it'll only go low when you're looking at the low 16K.
Okay, so it's got to have some decoding logic on it then. Probably.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where the 138 comes in.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it looks like I sent out the wrong link, by the way, and a few folks are not with us yet. May explain where Adam is trying to get in.
Might be playing
Yeah,
Androids.
He was the one playing with the cartridge, which is great. You know, I mean, honestly, I wish I had more time to kind of just play around with the system like the old days, but you know, life being what it is, it just kind of, it happens very sporadically.
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's why retirement's nice.
Yeah.
Is that where you are, Jeff? You're in retirement?
Yeah, I'm what, 68 this year, so.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
There's a lot of things I'm saving up just for retirement to get done.
Looks like Adam can't join the meeting. I think he's using the other, because I did the same thing and it says the host has another meeting in progress. I had to go to another link.
Yeah, that's bizarre. So I just resent a link from this session. Let me just copy this and put it in. Are you like chatting with Adam?
Yeah, he sent me a text. So I'm going to copy the one that I used and then I'll just put it in to the text for him.
Yeah, I'm not sure what screw up I made, but clearly I did. Hi, Stuart. I ran into one of your customers on the internet, Stuart. You're muted. Oh my Lord.
There you are, Stuart.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
So what was he interested in? 2068? So very few of my customers buy things for 2068s. I have much less. Mostly what I have is for the 1000 ZX81.
He has an 81 that he's I think a kit or something that he's had for a long time that he's building.
Ah,
And
people generally don't build the kits in recent years.
I think he got the ZX video thing from you.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, a lot of, yeah, those are popular. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm hoping to get more of these keyboards for the ZX81s. They have to make Carl has to make another batch in Germany, and then I'll be getting them. Yeah.
Are these the keyboards with the little micro switches in them?
Yeah.
Cool. Very
I
cool.
like the way they feel. They work really well.
Unlike the original, they have feel.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking of, DK-Tronics had one, the little case with the real keyboard, right? Like maybe they got a TI-99 4A keyboard or something like that. And, or just try and find one of those original, but they've come across eBay once in a while, but they're not cheap. They're not horrendously expensive, but they're certainly, you're talking $200-300 for some of those little keyboard things for the 1000.
Right.
But it'd be nice to have one.
I was actually working on an adapter to go to a full site, a regular keyboard. Just use a 102.
Oh, okay, like a PC keyboard.
When I discovered this product, but it fits. It doesn't change the form factor of the ZX81, yet it's sufficiently tactile to be a pleasure to use. So I think it's like, I really like it. So
I know they made the same thing. I think the same guy makes the same thing for the Spectrum, the rubber key, the 48K,
I
48K.
actually have them for, I have them. I have the one for the ZX81. I have that with a different overlay for the Z80, but I haven't put it on eBay because I never had a Z80 and I'm not sure I could, I don't know. I haven't done that. I also have them for the Spectrum and for the, what you can use on the 1500.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I just haven't put them up either because, as a matter of fact, I never owned a Spectrum and I actually bought one on eBay very recently. Haven't even plugged it in. Got it from Egypt of all places. And
Yep.
came very promptly. And
PAL monitor?
it was actually advertised to be a bad keyboard. So I figured, oh, I'll order this. I have the keyboard to replace it, and I'll take pictures while I do it and make some documentation. So that's one of my projects, and I do it
yeah.
works.
How much does a Spectrum go for nowadays?
Well, I don't know. They're all over the board. This one went for something like 120, and I think I paid $30, and it came very promptly by UPS from Egypt, from Cairo. But I don't know that it works. He said it worked, had video and everything with a bad keyboard. It was exactly what I needed. So I'll let you know. Hopefully,
Yeah, I know.
PAL TV or
show it working.
do you have a PAL TV, Stuart?
I think I have a TV that I believe will work with it.
Okay.
Last time
I
I
think
did
that-
one years ago, it's TV, it's UHF 33.
Oh,
to
really?
get to- yeah. So this is back in 1990, 91 when someone gave me a Spectrum. But I had a regular TV and I think it came in black and white mostly on UHF 33. But I did get some signal. I was going to do a mod, but never got around to it.
My experience is if you buy the cheap Chinese TVs, a lot of them are built so they're just can be run across the whole globe. And a lot of them will do PAL. If you feed it a PAL signal, they don't advertise it. So that's something to look for too. Go to your used, thrift store, and sometimes you can pick up something like that.
Well,
Another option
the
actually.
ones that I first got my hands on were channel 33. And then, and the case, of course, didn't have any switch for channel 2.3. It also wasn't metallized for shielding.
Right.
When they started to sell them in the United States, the precursor of the TS1000, that they punched a hole with a channel 2.3 switch in it, and they metallized the inside of the case. And also the modulators were different. So like, here's the two modulators. I don't know if I can put them on the camera, but the holes are off. In other words, when they mount on the PC board like that, one has the hole here and the other has the hole here. And you can see on at least most of the molds that they were prepared to punch them either way.
Right.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah. One's a UHF,
One of
the
these
Spectrum one's UHF and the other one's VHF.
channel
Yeah.
2.3 UHF.
Yeah. Those are hard and almost impossible to find nowadays, those Aztec modulators.
I actually
like-
have a bunch, but I've never been wanting to sell $10 items on, eBay. I try to, I sell books at $15, but I have spare parts. I just haven't had maybe in the summer when it's easier.
Well, there might be a market for those because other things used them,
Yeah.
not just the Timex things, the other.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, I didn't know that these were in
Yeah.
common with
Oh,
any
yeah.
other than, because I have many dozens, not hundreds, but I have dozens of these. Okay, that's good to know. Maybe I'll put them
Yeah.
up and find out what happens. I'll learn from who buys them, what they're good for.
I remember seeing the Aztec modulators in something else, and I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, the channel 2.4, the channel 2.3 one is fairly common in other computers too, or maybe I think video game consoles, things like
The
that.
Astrocade actually uses one too.
Okay,
Okay.
Not
here we go.
not the exact same one, but the same brand, and
Yeah.
it's very similar. Yeah.
Aztec made a bunch of them. You know, there's a bunch of models of modulators they made, but that Timex one probably would work, you know, for anything that's NTSC in black and white anyway. Right. So,
Mhm.
and no sound, right? Like I said, I was trying to look for, you know, I think the PAL ones you can find, they're still selling those, but the VHF ones, I couldn't find any. So just to let you know.
So Adam, you finally had success?
Are you talking about getting onto the meeting or getting my cartridge port to work? What are we talking about here?
Your cartridge working.
Yeah,
Somebody
I
else,
did.
somebody else was
I,
mentioning that too, that they couldn't get in, but I think hopefully they are in now.
That
Yeah, it
was-
turned out the link I had was, it was posted at, I don't know, as a continuing link, and when I would try to join, it would,
That was
it said
me.
there was already a meeting.
Somehow I messed
going
that
on.
up. I'll
Oh,
fix it.
okay. Well, it's all right. But however, I'm in now. So, yeah, I got the cartridge port to work. Well, the cartridge to work. I was able to burn just a test ROM, and I messed around with that today. I'm not confused anymore, but I was confused on how the bank switching worked, or how to choose a bank. And I guess you have to examine the doc file every single time. And when I say doc file, I don't mean DOC, I mean DCK or DSK or whatever it is, the first 9 bytes.
So we were just talking about that, Adam. The doc file format is for the Waryevo Spectrum emulator.
Okay.
And those extra 9 bytes are for that emulator. And the place that you found all those, you know, cartridge images,
Yeah.
you probably saw that there's a 32K and a 64K RAM cartridge image.
I saw a whole bunch of stuff. There's like a ton of images there. Yeah.
And so when you go back there, look at those things, and you'll see that the file size for those 2 RAM images is something like 9 bytes each.
Okay.
Because they're not actually you know, images of a RAM, because there would be nothing there, right?
Sure.
It's just for the emulator.
Okay. So is there a different place I should be downloading these ROM images?
No,
or...
no, that website has the best list I've seen so far
Okay.
of cartridge images, but you do have to cut off the first 9 bytes.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, as you know, as Kevin and Carl were saying, you have to then examine the next, what is it, 8 bytes or so?
There's 8 bytes, yeah, for the header.
And the first one, I think, you know, tells you whether it's going to be a language ROM operating system. That's what LROS stands for, or an application ROM operating system.
Okay.
And the application stuff is usually, you know, in chunks 4 through 7. And
it has to start.
LROS is 0 to, well, not 3, usually
use all of it.
And
yeah,
up to 2.
Is this because some of the cartridges has RAM on them then, or something?
No, it just has to do with whether it's written in machine language. Okay, so for instance, the Zebra 64K or 64 column
basic
ROM, okay, that is LROS, and it sits in the first 2 chunks, 0 and 1. Okay. The Spectrum ROM sits in chunks 0 and 1. Okay.
And that's the one you have to do the out 244, 3 or whatever.
Right, but that's because it doesn't have the 8-byte prefix that, you know, that everything else has. It's just the straight Spectrum ROM, and you then have to physically tell the 2068 that you want it to. That out tells the 2068 to switch from using the internal ROM to using the ROM that's in the cartridge.
I see.
Yeah, I think technically it would be called the home bank.
The home ROM, yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The home bank to go to the not
to
the XROM bank but the dock bank, yeah.
Dock bank, yeah. Right. And so then things like you know, Android or the Hot Z cartridge, which I've done.
I don't know what that is. What's the Hot Z cartridge?
It's a assembler, disassembler.
Oh, is that okay? That might have been one I pointed out. Then there was a ton of stuff on there. There was only actually 4 releases, right, for the 2068 on cartridge. like official releases, or 5 or something like that?
What, cartridges? No, there
Yeah,
were about
like officially.
There was more than that. There
15
was,
or
I don't
almost
know
20,
about
I
that
think.
many. Really? Cartridges? I
Like,
thought there
yeah.
might have been seven or eight, I think, that actually really
did?
existed. Yeah, I don't think it was 15 that many. I think it was probably like 6 or 7 or 8, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think there was 6 or 7.
Yeah, there wasn't quite that many. I mean, I'm sure they would have loved to had more, but yeah, I think it was 6 or 7 cartridges that ever made it out.
So
So,
wasn't it only Timex also?
sorry,
Wasn't it only Timex that made them?
that made the cartridges?
Well, I mean, they have official, in the real cartridge format, but obviously anybody could make a board and throw in there, but
Right, which, yeah, a bunch of folks did.
yeah.
But so Android and the Hot Z thing, Hot Z is actually written in BASIC.
Okay,
And it's a basic program that's been moved over to a cartridge.
that's cool.
And so it has to start at chunk 4. And there's a whole sort of routine that you have to do in order to make this happen, because basic programs actually start at around 28K, and chunk 4 starts at 32K. So you have to, do this little song and dance of a program to move your thing up in memory before you actually port it over, to the cartridge. That's already been done for the Hot Z cartridge image that's available, right? I would suspect that most of the game programs are actually cassette programs that were converted to cartridge,
Yes.
doing that little song and dance.
And probably from the Spectrum as well, rather than being
Absolutely,
written.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a chess that was a Scion chess program for the Spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the big thing is I don't know about the doc, those 9 doc files bytes, the header bytes for that. That's one thing for the doc program to understand. But like I said, you can always go to the AROS. Well, they're just called the cartridge header bytes. There's 8 bytes that every cartridge has to have, right? And within those 8 bytes, you can tell if it's an LROS, an AROS, what chunks are supposed to be enabled or not. That way you can find and understand, well, what do I need to set on my little cartridge board, right, to run that properly.
Yeah, I'd figured that I'd burn the ROM correctly and all that stuff, because I've used this ROM burner quite a bit. And I got off the 9 bytes, and then I was trying to look at where the code might start, and I'm familiar with Z80, but I didn't know where to start looking for the code, and I figured it wasn't the first byte, which turned out I was right. And so I was like, well,
yeah, this is the 3rd and 4th byte tell you where the machine 12,
I read
where it starts,
or skimmed your email or a post. Yeah, it was pretty long and lengthy, but very good. I'll have to print it out and keep it for files.
Well, there's also that site, and I know when I went to that site, it says, well, this is a bad site, but you can continue on. But anyway, maybe there's some bad things on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
it's only bad from your side of town.
Well, I've got like Norton running and all that stuff too. So, you never know. But anyway, that one is a really good explanation. I think the technical manual kind of talks about it pretty well too. But, that's a good write-up on the web that kind of really goes into explaining, the LROS, the AROS. And we were kind of talking about at the beginning of the meeting that maybe we could run the Spectrum ROM, but then I was, well, you have those extra 8 bytes, right? So now all the code shifted by 8 bytes. So things won't line up. So I don't know, but then they were talking about, well, just pull the bank enable down low, when you're accessing the first 2 chunks, and then it'll access the Spectrum ROM, and it should work, without having to do the out command. You should just be able to plug that cartridge in, turn it on, and it'll boot right into Spectrum mode. Although I think Jeff was mentioning sometimes the SLD might be in a different video mode, right? And so it may not be, you may not get video. So I guess,
well, that's important.
In his adaptation, this is the interface thing. I guess you write the code, you send that out before, right, Jeff?
Sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, I have a little Z80 stub that automatically does that.
So that way you can actually, and now, like I said, I know on my Portuguese machine, I think when I put the cartridge in there for the emulator, Spectrum emulator, it just boots up into Spectrum mode.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't know if I want to take my cartridge apart to see what they did in there, or maybe somebody else has one that's already kind of fallen apart or something like that. But, you know, to see how they, you know, connected it, because I'm sure, you know, it's just a Spectrum ROM that they have inside there. I don't think it's any, you know, there may be some decoding circuitry like, you know, David and Jeff are mentioning to, you know, to enable the bank enable when it's looking at the ROM, you know, the home ROM area. So instead of going to the Timex ROM, it goes to the cartridge ROM.
So,
But go
um,
ahead.
well, I was going to say that I'm looking at the list of files that is on that site. It's I forget what the guy's name is. It's Carl something or other, who I'm gonna put it in the chat. And so Adam, for instance, one of the games, Horace and the Spiders and Hungry Horace are originally Spectrum games.
Yeah, I actually played those from tape, from WAV file, just a few days ago, because I've been going through, and I think I've played all the original Timex releases except for 1 or 2 now. I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, and been playing 1 or 2, 3 a week maybe. Just it only takes the original games only take like 2 or 3 minutes to load, which is it's not as fast as the cartridge, but it's not too bad.
So you should do Popeye and Cubert next.
Okay.
And report back.
All right, I'll do that. Last time you kind of gave me homework, and you said, and I said, I'm not going to do it, but then I decided I was going to try to get the cartridge to work before the next meeting. So that's why I was like, I'm going to do it.
And you might want to look into a 0 insertion force socket.
Yeah, I thought about that actually. That's what I have on my Astrocade.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll order another one of those cartridges from you and just solder one of those on there myself or something.
The
or
problem
whatever.
is that there's 2 styles. There's the 3M style, which has, here, I'll just pull one out.
Might be too tall.
Right. Well, there's this 3M style. Okay. And the problem with the 3M style,
that's what I have. Yeah.
You can't really see it.
Thick.
The pins are not round. They are sort of rectangular shaped, and you'd have to I've tried more than once. It doesn't fit into a regular socket footprint.
Yeah.
But there is this old Aries style, I believe, which you might be able to see here, and it's got this little lever. I actually thought of this off of something really old. They don't show up very often, but look on eBay for it, because this does actually have round pins.
Well, maybe you can point that out in like the chat, or put it in tomorrow or something
If I
like
can
that.
find it. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I meant to ask earlier, does the like when you put posts and things in there, or like links, do they get saved somewhere after the meeting?
No,
they don't. Oh, okay, I was hoping that
I try to remember them.
Okay.
You know what? And tonight I will just copy. There must be a way I can just copy all.
I think there's a way you can save the chat too.
I will figure out how to do that.
Because it'd be handy. I thought I was just overlooking it, but okay.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
But let me show you. I don't know how well these come out, but this is. Let's see. This is an Astrocade cartridge which has BASIC on it. And here is this ROM. I don't know. This is that what you were talking about. So I have this.
Yeah.
You know. So I have currently I have on here. What do I have? An Astrocade demo that was programmed in 2019. So this would be handy to have, but I don't. Even if I guess you just wouldn't be able to close the door, but the door doesn't have to be closed on the 2068 to actually make the cartridge work, right? It just would be handy.
Right.
There's there's no connection.
Yeah.
Decorative. Yeah. So you know what? I stand corrected. Aries sockets are available from DigiKey, Newark, might be and Mouser too. So all the popular popular folks carry Aries.
Yeah, because you kind of want to get one that's skinnier, right, or not as tall, obviously, because then you probably would be able to.
Well, that is that's the great thing about this Aries socket.
Yeah.
It's not much higher than a regular socket.
Yeah.
Right.
It looks like it's very breakable, however, but I can't really tell. You know,
it's pretty sturdy.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, I recognize this one as being from, like I said, I desoldered this from something, and I know the person who soldered it onto a circuit board did that back in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
But, I think that what Kevin was mentioning too, get you a big, flash EEPROM,
Right.
flash
Yeah.
memory, and then you can just program a bunch of crap
Right.
in there.
And I do have a whole bunch of 256K EEPROMs or double
Yeah.
EEPROMs, whatever
Yeah.
people call them, but they're not. I don't think they're going to be compatible with that Timex thing. I mean, I don't think.
What's the model number of the chip you have?
Oh, I don't know offhand.
Is it
Yeah, I don't know offhand.
C256 or something?
Hold on.
Yeah.
I can get it handily. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be compatible unless it's something like totally whacked out. But all the
Right.
2800 series should be fairly compatible.
The only problem with this particular design is that it doesn't support multiple images in one ROM. I mean, you could, burn, say, 8 different things to one ROM, but it's only going to see the first one.
Yeah, I did notice that. Yeah, which
Yeah,
is fine, really. I mean, all I need is 40 different EEPROMs, and I'll be safe.
Well, I mean, the circuit could be redesigned to use, say, a dip switch to select different different sections of a ROM, or a rotary switch or whatever.
I think there's some out there, aren't there? Isn't that one guy in Portugal that has multiple games on his cart, kind of doing something like that?
He uses slide switches. He's in
Argentina.
Thank you.
Oh, Argentina.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was hoping he was going to join us tonight, but he says he's traveling.
So no, I
do-
saw one of them that had the dip switches on there, so that you could pick which one you wanted.
This is
that's
an Astrocade Multicart, which
Yeah.
is what you're talking about. So this uses the dip switches,
Yeah.
and it's pretty handy. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did find my these, I think they're 256s, but I've got my freaking magnifying glass here, and I still maybe if I change into my reading glasses here, dang, it's pathetic.
You know what's good for those two is the phone. Use your phone,
Yeah.
and you can zoom in on it.
Here's the sexy look you want to rock.
I'm well past that. I have to use my binocular microscope anymore.
So let's see. Actually, I can read it now. It's I don't know. It's the 39SF040 from SST. I don't know if that means anything to you.
Yeah. So that's you said 04.
Shoot, I forgot. You're supposed to be writing this down for me, David.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, 040.
That's a
4 meg chip, I think.
I think it's
I think it's it's a 4 megabit, I think, or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
Divided by 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big ass chip. Not to put too fine a point on it, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of them. I actually bought them because I bought them in a lot on eBay, like new old stock or something like that, and it was the easiest way to get them for me at the time.
That's an 8 megabit chip.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay. All right. Well,
well, I mean, getting new chips is not a problem. I mean, I'm sure I can find them around.
Yeah. Good luck. The 27 C256s are in short supply.
Are they? Okay.
Mouser and DigiKey right now, and they are, if you can find them, astoundingly expensive for what they are.
Really? Okay. That's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't order stuff from China, but I do hear that like a lot of times people are getting screwed over by getting chips that aren't even really what they're labeled as. They're just fake, completely fake.
Yep.
Big market for that in China.
Yep. I ordered some 27 256s from AliExpress, and I got a bunch of windowed EEPROMs, when what I wanted were non-windowed, one-time programmable EEPROMs. That was the image I had. They were, that they showed was the non-windowed, and I instead got, devices that were probably from 10 years ago. Yeah. Good
That
time.
might be something to think about, I think there might be a little market for that, having, multiple cartridges on one board.
Multiple images.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, especially if somebody explains, especially with a basic program, right? That's really easy, I think, to convert it to a cartridge. I think.
Mhm.
I can't say that I've done it personally. I've done machine language on a cartridge personally, but that's easier. But I can't see why it wouldn't be that hard to make a basic, copy the basic code out of, capture RAM, move it over to a cartridge, put your header bytes in there and see if it works.
There's a program, and I don't remember where it is, but there's a program in one of the magazines or newsletters for doing exactly that. Tim might remember.
There's a lot of magazines out there, so holy crap, that's a lot to go through.
Yeah, I'm not much of a hardware guy, so I didn't really keep track of any of that stuff. In
Okay.
fact, I'm not a hardware guy at all.
Yeah, but that's software.
Yeah, that's software.
But it deals with the hardware.
Doesn't all software deal with the hardware?
Well, no way.
Can't have one without the other.
Abstraction.
That's why I'm pure 100% emulator. I don't have to worry about getting out. My worry about hardware is if it breaks. I remember as a kid making models like, oh, look, I got this model. Snap. The one piece you needed is gone. So
Yeah.
no, I prefer emulators only.
Yeah, those teeny tiny little plastic bits on the airplanes.
Yeah. Or you're working on something late at night and you need something else. And it's like, oh, I can't, the hobby store is closed. So what I like about software is, oh, I need that library. Hey, go download it off the internet. Oh, I need a new compiler. Download it off the internet. Done deal.
I don't know if anybody's looked into the, the div MMC, of course, but, I think that runs, it has to run from the Spectrum code, right? For
Yeah.
what it does, because it creates a menu system and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if there would be any interest in maybe converting that maybe to, so you could just run it on the 2068 directly, using the 2068 calls.
So the div MMC uses something called ESX DOS, which is some kind of closed source thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the person responsible for it, would give you the source if you asked, and but
yeah, then it's the trouble of going through. But I was just kind of thinking if that would be, because we don't really have anything like that for the pure 2068, right? Obviously, it's for the Spectrum, it's there, but
well, so just put a little little Teensy or Arduino in between the two of them and do on the fly ROM call translation.
Yeah, that could be done too. Might add a little latency in there. I don't know how much, but
put a little 2068 between the two, and
I don't know, man. I think a Raspberry Pi will blow the 2068 out of the water. But yeah, these days.
well,
But yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I have a DIMMC, but like I said, I don't get around to using my things too much. But I was just thinking that might be, along with Adam's cartridge. And you maybe can use yours. Maybe instead of like the the jumpers, you just have little those jumpers. But if you got like a wire jumper, couldn't you maybe like wire from bank 5 or chunk 5 to 4 or something like that, or
you mean so I could select a different chunk off the cartridge, off the EEPROM. So like if I put 2 different games or whatever, I could do it that way. Is that what you mean?
Right, you'd have to put it in a different address space in the EEPROM, obviously, right? They can't pile on top of each other, but when you're adjusting the address lines on those jumpers, right? Or maybe you're enabling certain address lines.
Yeah, I don't know how those jumpers work actually.
They just come out of the decoder, right? And it's just but I think if it's decoding, you could say, well, when chunk 5 turns on, I want it to go to my chunk 4. So you need a little, not the same kind of jumper, but you need a jumper with a little wire on it, right? So you could jump from. But I don't know. I'd have to see the schematic for that thing. But
the schematic's available, like for this cartridge, actually. Yeah.
So what you have to do is, I've done this, is you have to put the enable, let's see, is it address line 13? I think you have to send one of the address lines to a switch, and then switch between 13 and 14 on the ROM if you have a 32K EEPROM, and that'll select between, you know, the upper
The lower and
16K
upper
the upper
16.
16K, right. And then if you wanted to do, you know, a 64K or something bigger, you know, you just need a bigger, you know,
More switches.
just like the one you have with your Valley cartridge there.
Yeah.
You know,
You just kind of have to make sure that the banks are the same on the different programs.
oh, right, of course, yes.
Right.
They all have to sit in the same spot.
Yep, learned that the hard way.
Or put a 2068 between the two, and then, you know, do some on-the-fly translation.
Well, you could probably hook a decoder chip up, you know, use the decoder chip because you get 8 outputs out of it, right? So on 138 you do anyway. And then you could hook that to, you know, 3 dip switches. There's your, you know, your 8 possible things. And that would go to the proper, you know, set up the proper addressing.
Yeah.
So that you could fill that one EEPROM up, and then you're kind of manually selecting the higher address lines, right? So that it would pick whichever one you had selected.
Well, by the next meeting, you'll have that ready for us, Carl. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I don't know about that. maybe I don't know. David's got a better workflow for that.
Oh, this is too bad. I've got these crazy little
Rotaries.
really hard to see, rotary switches,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to 10, but they've only got 6 pins. So if 1 is common, that leaves you with 5, and 2 to the power of 5. It's probably
I think some of those were like BCD. So,
yeah, exactly, or breakcode or something.
Right.
I'll have to put it on a circuit board and see what it does.
You get any other to go to 11?
No. wait. Oh, this one goes to 11. We're gonna make it one louder, but you know.
But that might be interesting. That way you could put a bunch of games on one cartridge, right?
Mhm.
That would just, not that there's a lot of games to begin with on cartridge to be, you know, but
Oh, there's Cubert
still.
and Popeye and
Star Wars one.
you know, the multiple horses and
The multiple horses? What do you mean by that?
they made like 3 or 4 of those games. Horace Goes Skiing, Horace.
Oh,
I don't know,
Horace.
Horace and the
Yeah,
Sled.
yeah.
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 Horace Goes Home, Horace Home Alone.
I do remember reading in Retro Gaming Magazine a few years ago that for that little Scion not laptop, but like Palm Top that came out in the 90s, that they made a Horace game for that. And like a few years ago, they ported it to the Spectrum, which is kind of interesting. Do you guys know what I'm talking about by the Scion, like little?
Yeah, the organizer.
Series 3 or Series 5?
I don't know what it's called, but it's about this big, I think.
Yeah, it's like a calculator. It looks like a calculator.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
Series 3 and 5, and yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they were ever released in America. I don't think so.
They
Oh,
did release the Series 3 and the Series 5. These were clamshell PDAs.
Yeah, that's what it looks like in the picture that I
Yeah,
saw.
I knew a guy, you know, I was in Ohio that had one.
Hmm.
Symbios, I think, was the operating system that was on it, that then went on to do other things.
yeah, that's right.
You know, I've been seeing some things pop up on my YouTube that some guy's recreating that Scion. I guess he's using new hardware. So kind of like maybe what similar thing that Jeff's doing with his hardware and emulating the 2068.
Huh. Crazy.
Yeah, he's got like, I think he's up to like, I don't know, 13 or 14, you know, parts in the series. So
And this is a YouTube video that you can watch, or what do you mean?
yeah, he
Oh.
talks about,
That's cool.
I haven't really watched them because I'm not, you know, that interested. I mean, I do remember those from back in the day. I don't know anybody that had one, but I think they did sell them here. But it's just like, you know, you just had to know that's what you wanted, you know, and or you were interested in that kind of thing to really know where to buy them from.
They weren't terribly cheap. HP made a similar pocket computer, but for lack of better terminology, it was another clamshell. Atari made the PC Pocket,
Yeah.
which was, I mean, these were $400, $500, $600 years ago. They weren't cheap.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
had the Atari one, the little, their little pocket computer, and then I
Are you
had,
talking about the portfolio? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, basically, I did the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
And then I had the, the HP, the 200LX, which was their DOS-based little palm top. They
Right.
called it a palm top PC. Yeah.
One of the Timex folks went on, I think it was a guy named Bill Skirm, went on to Scion after Timex folded. But that was the early Scion devices, like, you know, the calculator looking ones with one line of
Mhm.
LCD. Yeah.
I don't think those ever made to the US, but I know they're fairly common in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they made a lot of software too. You know, they made a lot of
Mm-hmm.
pretty good software actually too. And from what I recall, that was some pretty high class software that they made for the Timex. I think because they make like ViewCalc and
I was gonna say, yeah, I think they did ViewCalc
and View 3D or
Mhm. Mm-hmm.
the one where you could, you know, the demos like the cup, you know, the wine glass that moves around on the screen and everything.
Yes.
I think Scion made that, and yeah.
They made the 4 major programs for the QL:
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Abacus,
Oh,
Archive,
that's
and
right.
Easel.
Yeah.
Abacus, Archive, Easel, and what am I thinking? Abacus. Okay. Quill. That was the other
Quill.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still use Quill to this day.
Really?
I was
Oh,
looking
an
for
emulator.
I wanted a word processor that had a black background.
Yeah.
All the ones I tried to use for different platforms wouldn't work that well. They didn't have great black, you know, everything's white background, just too rough on the eyes. So I said, bag it. I'll just basically throw on an emulator on my little netbook and run Quill. There's another program that will convert from Quill to RTF into OpenOffice, and I'm good.
So what do you got against WordStar?
No black background.
We can always use WordStar
WordStar
2000.
was, trust me, WordStar on CPM was black background.
Oh, okay.
I used WorkSpar back in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I prefer Quill over WordStar.
So Tim, I have a question. You run QL on an emulator so you can use a word processor?
Yeah.
That is absolutely the coolest thing I've heard all day.
I have a little Asus netbook that I use on my semi recliner. I have my little netbook on a piece of wood, so I have a surface for my mouse. And then I run SMSQ emulator, which is actually a SMSQE emulator, not a true QDOS emulator. Fire that up, and I just start Exchange, which is all 4 programs put into one, and then just do all my word processing. I save it locally. I save it instead of inside a QXL WIN file. I save it to the file system of the Linux netbook, and then run. Jeff Wicks wrote the program that converts from .doc file, you know, the Quill format to RTF, which is then usable by anything. And then I'll typically copy it to my desktop by going through my NAS box.
Nice.
So this copy says my NAS.
Well,
from the NAS to
you know, they
desktop.
got Chromebooks now, well, even Windows now, but you know, the thing with dark modes, you know, I mean, you know, I think the Chrome browser has dark mode now, and
I
course,
use
you
it on
can
my
get
Mac,
Word.
my dark mode.
Yeah.
But for word processors, I mean, I tried to do OpenOffice in dark mode. It doesn't really work very well. It just sort of fakes it. So I really like having dark mode word processors.
Tim, you have the advantage too. If someone decides they break into your file system, what are they going to be able to get? Nothing. They're going to be like, "What is this? What is this?"
Security. Yep.
Security. By obscurity.
Well, I actually wrote something many years ago called complex ASCII rotation, whereas with most computers, if you seed the random number generator with a certain value, the next value is predictable. Meaning if you get the next value, and then a month later you do the exact same thing with the exact same seed, and then the next few values are going to be the same. So you can take a text file, rotate each character by a certain amount by the random number. It looks like garbage, but then you run through the program again with the same starting seed, and it'll then untranslate it. Because you know what the random value is, and you undo it. So,
oh, it's too bad David Solly signed off, because that's one of his favorite topics is encryption. So I want to know, Tim, the piece of wood that you have it on, that solves the ROM pack wobble problem?
no, I'm talking about my netbook, not my ZX81. Although I did solve the ZX81 ROM pack wobble with pegboard and duct tape.
Nice.
I duct taped the ZX81 plus the extra memory onto a board, and that way it solved the problem.
Yeah.
I also had the other problem of, you guys ever have the shag carpet problem with your ZX81? Where you set it on the shag carpet, and then suddenly after 5 minutes, it disappears. And you're like, what's going on? You're like, oh, the heat thing is underneath, and I'm putting it on shag carpet. Oh, that's probably not a good idea. I learned that early on when I first got it.
Yeah.
One of the first things I learned was how to replace the heatsink on the computer, and actually I would desolder the regulator and mounted it on a much larger heatsink.
The other one I found was, I had a cassette player built into my stereo. You wanted to record from the radio, you hit the record button, right? When I went to the ZX81, I got one of those little portable units, the typical desk unit, right? Well, you push record there, and you can hear things being recorded later, but it didn't actually record loud enough. You had to push play record. So my first time is trying to save ZX81 programs. I'm like, I can hear it. Why won't it load? Play record. That's all. I had to just read the manual.
Kind of getting back to just Stuart's keyboard thing, for the Spectrum one, at least, I know they make them with lights.
Yes.
Right. Because I think RWAP or whatever over there, they make the overlays, the keyboard rubbers that are transparent. Right. So the LED lights shine through them. So you can get, some very interesting looking Spectrums with all the lights and, all that kind of thing. I don't think they, I kind of was looking at that for the 1500, but the overlay I think is a little, obviously different, right? It's not a Spectrum. It's a TS1000 really, right? With so the overlays on that particular rubber piece, are unique to the 1500, right? So you couldn't just throw a Spectrum one in there, and I don't know, maybe I'm sure all the letters probably line up right, but I don't think the tokens will be right.
Yeah, that's correct. The rubbery bit is exactly the same. There's a guy whose name escapes me right now who makes all those things, and then Byte Delight carries some of them.
Yeah,
like the
it'd be nice. It'd be nice if they made some 1500 ones. That would be kind of cool. But
the 1500, that's pretty rare machine, am I right? It seems like it.
There's 3 on eBay right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's particularly rare, but it's rare in the sense that it's the only machine that's kind of cobbled together with Spectrum parts, right? And it's unique.
Other than the Spectrum.
Well, the Spectrum, they made millions of those, right?
Yeah.
But the 1500 has a unique the metal piece that goes, because of the tokens and everything. So it has to have a unique metal cover that goes over the keyboard key, the chiclet keys, and then the actual chiclet key the rubber itself, the silk screening on that's totally different. Well, not totally different, but mostly different. But and then, like I said, they made some, like I said, that are kind of transparent now. Yeah. Okay. There's Stuart showing the keyboard. And then you're on mute, Stuart. So if you're talking.
I got my 1500 in the garage. Should I go get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, go get it.
Yeah.
How many were made?
Of the 1500?
I'd say, I don't know how many,
1500,
but
1500, that's where it got its name.
well, I know there's 2 motherboard revisions, right?
Yeah.
For that. So they must have made, enough of them to make, probably, I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 maybe, who knows?
Now,
I know that
on the timing of that came out at the same time as the 2068 or before the 2068?
It came out before. the
It did come out before it?
Yeah, it came out in the summer, basically,
Yeah.
of '83.
And it was really a flop. I mean, they didn't really sell, you would think, that many of them, but I don't know what that many of them really,
Well,
did
they had
10,000.
they cut the price of
10,000.
the 1,000 down to like $39.
Yeah.
And then they brought the 1,500 out at $79, and it's like, I mean, granted, it had the 16K, it had the the squishy keyboard, but
It was too late.
it was just
it
a
was
part
too
of that
late by that
1,000.
time. There it is.
There it is in all its glory.
He's missing the
baby.
label.
Yep, unfortunately, I couldn't get the label when I found this one years ago.
Oh, you know what? I can help you out there. Where did I put those? Here we go.
I've actually got a sheet that's got Timex Sinclair. I've got every it's in a Word file or something, but it's got 2020, 2010, 2030, 20. I mean, things that never existed.
You want me to cut one of these off and send it to you?
Hey, there you go.
I'm fine. I don't worry about it.
Okay.
You guys ought to recognize this one, right?
Oh,
Oh,
there you go.
man.
So when I bought this one, it was sitting on top of an Apple III at a computer show.
Oh, wow.
My eyes lit up. And this guy goes, "Oh, he's going to buy the Apple III." Well, I sort of did. It wasn't what I was looking at. These were like, and I think this one has the ZX81 ROM in it. It had an overlay of the ZX81. So I went to my one box, and let's see.
Nice.
Oh, nice. So it's a
Plus.
plus?
Spectrum,
Yeah.
Spectrum Plus.
Cool. Very cool.
Got that from a guy in Virginia. Of course, there's also
Hey.
Oh, where did you get that?
What is that?
everything I've got is at least 25, been like 20 to 25 years ago. This is
Yeah.
the PC 8300, the Hong Kong special.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a company that ripped off the 1000 roughly. And that came out with a gazillion different names, like the Futura and the Unit.
Lambda.
Yeah, the
was
Lambda
one.
8300 was one of them. And
Have
the
you seen
ROM,
this?
Little Sinclair calculator.
Wow.
Yep. It's the programmable calculator.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
A guy in England owed me some money, so he sent that. Along with,
so he still owes you
Were
money.
you
then,
going to
right?
break his legs?
Oh,
the
you got a
TV.
TV.
the
Wow.
flat screen.
The Sinclair TV. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty rare.
And that's the large screen version.
That's a true
Only made
CRT
one
on
kind.
it, right?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, they made the Microvision, which was the long one, regular CRT. That what's his name? For the football player. Oh, Terry Bradshaw actually advertised.
Oh, okay. That's the sideways screen.
The Microvision had a straight-on CRT.
Yep. The one you just showed us was the sideways, right?
Yes, where basically the beam comes along
Yep.
and is pushed into the phosphor. On a
Yeah.
regular TV, you're looking at the other side of the phosphor where
Right.
the beams hit. This side, you're actually looking at the phosphor, and there's a magnifying lens right on across here to make it a little bit bigger. It
Okay.
takes a funny battery that fits in here,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
of course it's analog, so it's not going to work. I guess I
Yeah.
could hook up a. It does take AC adapter, and it does have AC and hit earphone, so I could like hook up a computer to it.
Tim, is that a Pulse battery that it takes?
It is. I
'Cause it
want to
looks
say
like-
it reminds me. It's a flat battery pack.
Yeah. There
Uh,
was a battery. Polaroid made a battery for their one of their cameras. I don't remember
It
what
could
it's
be
called.
something like that. It could
It's
be
called a
something like that.
Pulse battery. Yeah.
They might want to check the caps in that thing, especially in a high voltage section after this time. They may not be too
Yeah,
happy.
I'm
but,
not
you
gonna
know,
fire it up.
Yeah.
I just got to add to my collection.
Mhm.
Somewhere I've got the X1 button radio that fits in your ear.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Wow.
Because
So-
I know
The-
Sony, obviously, with the Watchman, right? They kind of continued on with that train of thought with the sideways CRT hitting a curved piece of phosphor. Yeah, they came out with a bunch of Sony Watchmans, right? That were little handheld TVs. That did
So
I'm
I have
going
a,
to
I have a
upgrade to getting a
question
C5,
about that
but-
radio. Like you're saying the radio fits in your ear? The whole radio?
Yeah, look up the X1 X-1 Sinclair X-1 radio button. I think
I'll trust you. I trust you.
And it
Now you
has
can
a-
tell
it
me
has a little
anything
ear clip.
apparently. I'm like,
got an ear
oh,
clip.
okay.
And it's got a wire that hangs down that's your antenna. And it's got like a single button click to advance to the next station.
Oh, oh,
You know, Iowa had, you know, headphone stereos like that had radios built into the headphone, you know, so that, yeah, you weren't carrying around anything. It was all part of the headset itself. And I'm sure other companies did too, but yeah.
Yeah, I bought that years ago when it first came out. It wasn't terribly expensive. I think I know what box it's in, but it's the bottom of about 5 others.
Yeah.
you know
You
what?
need a Sinclair C5 scooter, then you'll be.
Wouldn't mind getting one. They are a bit pricey. I only know of a few that made it into the US.
Yeah,
Someone bought one in the US.
the guy
And then
from Time Designs
contact-
had one.
Pardon?
The guy from Time Designs had one.
Yes,
Tim,
yes,
Tim
there was another
Woods, I
one.
think. Yeah.
David Letterman contacted somebody in the US, said, I want one for my show.
Huh.
They sold it to him. So Letterman, I think, was on CBS at the time or NBC, but the corporation bought it. And there is an 80s TV show where some kid has it and he's running it around the set as part of the TV shows. Yeah, something his new thing he's working on, but it was actually just a C5. They basically got it and said, "Oh, hey, we got this in the back. Let's reuse that on the set." So there's a few that made it to the US. Not many, but they're still kind of pricey, a couple thousand, I think.
Yeah, no, Dave Jones has one because recently he did a YouTube video on it, taking it apart and seeing what was inside of it. And,
Is he,
Oh, man.
is he in the US or outside?
he's in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Besides
the
lead
one-
acid batteries.
Yeah, well, he shows how the cabling was in the brakes because he takes it apart, right? Because
Oh,
he's
yeah.
trying to refurbish it, and it's, you know, as he always likes to say, a lot of it is pretty how you doing, how it was put
The
together.
motor's from a vacuum cleaner, I think.
Yeah, something like that. It was
Wow.
That
like,
was my understanding.
it was you know, pretty
Actually, I
cheesy.
think it was a washing machine, if I recall.
Something like that. Yeah. Just an off the shelf motor. I mean, they're kind
Yeah,
of neat.
he runs the EEV blog, but yeah, he's had a couple, you know, episodes on his C5.
And I'm just looking at the wiki site. It's a washing machine motor. So
Oh,
Okay.
well, wait a minute.
Good.
So wait a minute. That reminds me that there was an appliance manufacturer involved in that, and that would explain it. Yeah, it was like a company that made washing machines was somehow one of his investors in terms of bringing it to the United States.
I don't think they ever sold them in the US. I would have heard it because I kept an eye on everything Sinclair wise since
Yeah.
1981. So
Well, yeah, once Timex moved in, I think Sinclair kind of moved out from his USA stuff.
except for the QL, because Timex was out of the market by then. So they reestablished Sinclair in the US, tried to sell the QL. Then A Plus Response bought all the surplus QLs once Amstrad, because Amstrad didn't get the US rights, I think.
Mhm.
And then A Plus Response in New Hampshire, wherever it was, bought whatever Sinclair had left of the US QLs.
Because there used to be, like, I don't know where physically it was, but one Sinclair Plaza or somewhere like that. I
Nashua,
think that was that?
New Hampshire.
was that where it was?
Yeah.
But it was actually, you know, Sinclair, one Sinclair, you know, that was the address, right?
Mhm.
Hey,
Mhm.
go look
Mates.
at what I think my first or second easing, I talk about the QL in the US. I think I have it documented along with a picture of the location or something.
Yeah,
But
because it was
initially, I
Sinclair
think-
Plaza. I think one Sinclair Plaza, and I was like, wow. That's
They
that
were
was back
initially,
when an address meant something. You know, hey, they got their own, you know, plaza, man.
I think initially they were in Boston, and then later they were in New Hampshire.
Yeah, Stuart may know some more about that. That was probably but more his
No,
timeline. No,
that's pre-Stewart.
oh, is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they were doing the
Stuart,
ZX81
Stuart, you
kits.
started in 83? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that would be because I know they were doing the kits and the pre-builts here
Yeah. Yeah.
before
Popular Mechanics
Timex.
ads.
Yeah, before Timex really, you know, got their hands into things.
So Tim, you read the story about you must have read the story about American Express because you mentioned it in the ZX zine. Did you actually ever see an American Express, the American Express campaign?
No, no one that I knew of had any American Express. I think back in those days it was fairly
It was rare
exclusive.
for air.
The right word. I remember somebody giving me a copy of Syntax Z8 from the Harvard group out of Boston, like one of the first newsletters that did the ZX81. I also got a copy of Sync magazine. That was a spinoff from Creative Computing.
Yeah,
So-
David All is pretty active on Facebook.
He's still around. Okay.
Yeah, he's still around. Exactly. You know, you see him pop up. It's like, oh my God, that's Mr. Creative Computing.
And he did a couple of those books on basic games.
Yeah.
I got the 101 and then the more one. And I would read through those all the time. That was
Yes.
my first
Yeah,
readings for
they're actually pretty good to look at. Since I go through the history of the Astrocade and stuff, I realized that a lot of the programs were ports from those books. And so like I can kind of trace the history of some of the basic programming that was done in the late 70s on the Astrocade because of those
wow.
books. It's kind of neat.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sync magazine was the one that was the lifeblood of Zebra when we were in the Timex market. We
Yeah.
had full page ads in Sync magazine every month, and I remember doing them with like a dot matrix printer at double scale and taking the copy down the block to where there was a local newspaper and they had a camera that could shoot a big, and they would accurately shoot it down, and I'd send it down, send them the artwork.
So what do
Big
you
thing,
send
It
them?
looked like decent resolution without going to a typeset, which they also
Right.
did down the block, but was expensive.
Yeah, I used to like Sync magazine because of the art, all the covers. I don't know who was
Yes.
drawing all those pictures, but man, those were some awesome pieces of art, man.
Yeah, our
I
own
got
version
lucky
of,
that-
of the Byte magazine art.
Similar, yes, exactly, right.
But
Yeah,
cheaper.
but Byte magazine was as big as the yellow pages, you know.
Oh
Like,
man, that was good.
that thing was crazy big.
That was awesome.
Never as big as Computer Shopper was back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Oh
And
man,
that magazine was much
Computer
taller.
Shopper was awesome.
Yeah, I built a lot of PCs using those ads in that magazine. I still have a few around somewhere. I kept them just for sentimental sake. Because yeah, they're freaking 1.5 2 inches thick. Some of those issues.
So you're talking Sync.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Ah,
Yeah, the art, man,
artwork
all
was
the
fantastic.
was great on all those. It was one thing to look forward to, but that was a really good magazine. I'm really disappointed that pretty much all of them, just pretty much when Timex called it quits, they just stopped. I could see maybe a couple of them continuing on just because the support was still there and it actually got better, right, as time
Yeah.
went on
Yeah.
for a little while there anyway, and but we just had no mainstream magazine to cover.
What do you mean it got better? The support got better? From what do you mean by that? From who?
Well, the community got together because
Mhm.
we were orphaned, right? And so like the support and everything for the machines, rose up. Timex wasn't making anymore, but the support and the community wise really, in my opinion, kind of rose up for I'd probably say at least 5 years after they'd gone, and probably more after that. But I think by the probably by the early 90s, I think everything was pretty much really starting to die out for that. I mean, there were some hardcore people still supporting it, but I think for the
There's some hardcore people in this group who are still supporting
Well-
it, so it hasn't really died out.
If you go look at the software that was available, I mean, Timex died, they went away, and then later you had Pixel Print, which was a desktop publishing program. You had, I can't remember who was it did that. Was it Lemke or somebody?
Yeah,
did
Lemke.
Pixel Print. He did a bunch of font programs.
Mhm.
The software was actually better
Yeah,
than
it
was.
grew.
They knew
Yeah,
more
it
about it.
grew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really got better.
So Tim, Lemke mentions in one of the issues of like Time Designs or something that, you know, he finally bought a disk system, and when he says finally bought a disk system, this is like very late in his development of Pixel Print, and he talks about how, you know, all the versions prior to that were written using a cassette.
That's a bit odd, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, difficult.
So he wrote this, you know, this decent desktop publishing program for the 2068 using cassette.
Well, that makes me wonder what there must have been, I guess, like on the Commodore 64 and the Ataris and stuff, people would write their own like improvements for the cassette output and input, so they could like double the speed or quadruple the speed or whatever. Did they have something like that on the?
I don't think so. They had the Win keyboard, which was so the ZX81 and others were known for being, if your volume wasn't quite right, you couldn't load or save. So the Win keyboard was in between the two, and if you got the volume quite right, the little green light, a red light would go on saying good, and then you could help you guarantee you're going to get good saves or so. I learned by watching the screen, because when you did a save on the ZX81, it showed up on the screen. I knew exactly roughly where to put the volume to get a good solid save. So I do like start a save, stop it, go back, and then do actual save once I had the volume set. Then I left the volume alone.
Yeah.
So on this basic here, by the way, is this backwards to you guys or it's backwards to me? Is it look correct to you?
No, it's fine.
It's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, that's nice then. There's a little red LED here, and that does the same function. So when this is glowing red, you
Mhm.
know that the volume is set properly, and so when you're saving,
Nice.
you'll and loading actually, you'll know. So
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, I know for me, once I got to 2020, man, that thing was pretty rock solid, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
Timex. Well, I don't, like I said, we talked about it before, who made that, Sampo or somebody, but anyway, that thing was pretty solid.
And so to your point, Carl, the Timex Sinclair user also gave up. Well, they sort of gave up a little bit earlier.
I thought they gave it at the same time. I thought Sync and Time Explorer user ended about the same time, within like a month or two of each other.
Yeah. Well,
Well, Timex Sinclair user was later to the game.
later
Right.
in the game, and I
But,
think that they were sort of foundering at the end there.
Yeah, and I think they were kind of coming from Britain. I think their primary
It was an
publishing was
Americanized.
in Britain. Oh, was it all
Yeah, it was an
American?
Americanized version of Sinclair user, and so and the if you look at who did the publishing, you'll see some Gladstone names.
Oh, okay.
And so it's it's the same guy
That ran
the same
Gladstone.
folks who did Gladstone Electronics. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are pretty good magazines too, from what well, that's all you had back in the day was magazines, right? We didn't have the internet or anything like that, or
I
books
thought
and
Sinclair
magazines.
Time Explorer user came across a little more childish, aimed at a younger audience. than
Yes.
Sync.
Yeah.
Sync
But then
sometimes
again,
came
I
across as
was-
an adult.
But yeah, but then, I was, 14 at the time. So I
Right.
mean, it was, I
Right.
understand
We,
there was
we
like
were children,
kids.
Tim. We were
Well,
the
yeah,
younger
okay.
audience.
You're making me feel old, guys. I was
Yeah.
in my 30s when that thing came out.
Oh my
Exactly.
God, you gotta be,
I was in college.
okay. Well,
I was not.
even though I was in high school, I could even tell then that, yeah, it seemed like some of those articles are made for like, grade school kids, right?
Right.
younger kids. But yeah, you're right. And where Sync magazine was much more, there's some technical articles in there,
Yeah.
hardware articles and things like that. That was a really good magazine. And I think there was maybe one or two more. I can't remember, but
In terms of
Glossy,
of
that was it.
Timex.
glossy
Was that it?
magazines?
Yeah, well,
thought
you
there
had
was
this, you had Syntax ZX, the one newsletter from New England,
Yeah.
and a few others, but for Glossy, those are the only two magazines.
Okay.
Right.
Now,
Syntax tried to
Computer
do a
Shop-
glossy.
The other ones like Computer Shopper, Microtimes, Computer Currents may have glossed over a little bit of the other home computers,
Mhm.
a little bit, but not much.
Yeah, because I know there was some coverage of the Timex stuff, once in a while when they came out with something like in Popular Electronics or Radio Electronics, but yeah, they weren't covering Timex, day in and day out. That was just kind of here's.
Well, I
something
remember,
different.
do you guys remember a magazine called Family Computing?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So that
yeah.
one, I think they used to, well, I know they would take like one main program, say it was written for the Commodore 64 or whatever, and then they would have like I don't remember if they did it for 2068, but I think they did it for some Timex machines. Then they would tell you
Probably
what
the
program
ZX
numbers to
1000.
change or whatever to make it match or make it run on your computer. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyone
Yeah,
here
occasionally
ringing a bell?
Compute would do that too.
Yeah.
Who would?
Compute magazine would sometimes say,
Compute.
okay, this is
Okay.
that. But once the 1000 hit the market, it started talking about it. Then when the market died for the 1000, and they were down to $10 a piece, Compute just dropped them completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus there was a Sinclair, because here we had a store here called Page One bookstore, and they actually had some of the British magazines that you could buy here, in Albuquerque at the time. So like your I think it was your Sinclair.
Mhm.
I would get, and there's like 5 or 6 magazines right over there that they had for the Sinclair, obviously because it was so popular. But those magazines too were a good 3/4 of an inch thick. They weren't skinny little magazines; they were huge.
Yeah, I picked up
Bookstore was
some, we had Sense Electronics here in San Francisco.
Oh,
That's where I bought my QL, but they also bought some ZX monthlies from them too.
Mm.
mhm.
And they also carried other newsletters. I bought a TS Horizons for them at one point. I would go over there. It was a bit of a drive. It's about 40 miles to get to San Francisco.
Wow.
I'd go over there occasionally. I was in the sunset distance. The parking wasn't too bad. I think once or twice I went out on BART and then Muni rail to get out there, public transit. And then, so I didn't go off all that often, but I remember definitely buying my QL there.
Yeah, they were a vendor for a long time.
It was nice to have them because I remember, so on my QL, I had one copy of Quill, one, micro drive. It died. I'm in the middle of working on a paper for college. So I called the guy and said, hey, do you have anybody in the East Bay that might have a spare copy? He goes, oh, this is guy, Robert Fingerly. And he lived like a mile from my house. Bugged him. Oh, I got a spare one. Here you go. He was the guy that did Concept 3D, the 3D graphics program for the QL that had a sailplane on the front cover. He also did some stuff for the ZX81 too.
Yeah, he did a bunch of things. I'm trying to remember what. I'll find out.
Yeah, I unfortunately never got into, I remember seeing like the Z88, right, the laptop one and the QL, but I unfortunately never, I got out of high school and got a real job, and I didn't have a lot of time for the, those things, so I never got one. I never got
get
a
the
QL.
Z88s in the garage.
Oh, see,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I'd probably like to get one of them one of these days, but it's I like I have all the time in the world right now to mess
The
with all the
QL
stuff that I have.
came out in like 85 or something. When did that come out?
Came out 84 is the copyright date, hit the US market in 85. I bought mine in 86 when the price dropped.
Okay, because so by then the ST was out then and the Amiga, but of course it was much cheaper.
Well, I remember what I liked about the QL is for $300, you got a system with 2 drives. Whereas if you had a Commodore 128 or some of the others, it cost you a lot more for the disk drive. So even though they're micro drives, they still function like a disk drive for me. I could do all the other things I needed to do. It's 2 drives, so it worked. I eventually went to floppies, but and then I got the QL Vision monitor and the printer at the same time, And those are great. The QL Vision monitor lasted for years. If I know it's still working with somebody else. And the printer was pretty good. It's a near letter quality printer.
Mhm.
So
How
all my papers
reliable were the
from college.
micro drives for all of the work that you were doing?
Say again, Jeff?
How reliable were the micro drives? Because I heard that they would eat tapes.
I don't think I had a really much, except for the quill going bad, I don't think I have much of a problem.
Hmm.
The nice thing about the US QLs, they were built from Samsung in Korea, and they were pretty rock solid. The ones from EMI Thorn in the UK were shaky a bit. I had a lot of problems with them, but the one that I had survived an auto accident. It was in the passenger seat when I hit a redwood tree and slid down an embankment, and it fired up just fine. Same with the Vision. The monitor was in my trunk, and it survived the car crash.
Well, how did you do in the accident? Did you?
Honestly, I survived.
Apparently he survived as well. So.
Yes. I tell people, don't hit a redwood tree. They're too big. They won't move.
Don't
This was
move.
probably a 4 or 5 foot across tree. So
Oh
it was
my.
right next to the roadway too. So I kind of slid a bit. It was wet and hit it, and then went down the embankment. I went.
Oh,
Kind of spun the car. Then I went and I ended up going backwards into a fallen redwood tree. And then the car dunked onto its side. So I had to lift the door up to get out. It
You know,
was an
if,
adventure.
if you ever write this story down, you need to title it something like "The QL Saved My Life" or something like that. you know.
It was just along for the ride, but it survived it.
Yeah.
The monitor had a dent in it, and so did the QL. It had another. It also had both of them had dents of some sort, but they worked fine. I could care less about the car. I was over at the computer.
Yeah. Yeah, because inside the micro drive, there's really not much. You know, there's the rubber wheel, right? And then there's just the tape head and the
felt was-
capstan roller. The felt, you're right. The felt's what really over time starts to go bad.
Right. That's
Just
what
like
they've
in a
been doing a lot of
cassette tape.
refelting.
Right.
In fact, give me 1 second.
just like 8-track tapes.
Yes, and cassettes. Cassette tape, same thing. The little felt that's on the bottom of the tape, yeah, that pushes it to the head.
Hmm.
But that's an endless loop, like an 8-track, right?
Like an 8-track, right? Exactly.
So let me I'll turn it this way a bit. Get a better light on it.
Yeah,
That's
the
what it
tape
looks
just-
like.
Things are so small.
Yeah.
The nice thing is it goes into a hard metal cartridge of the size of a matchbox.
Oh,
You
nice.
can put this in your pocket or your pants pocket with keys or whatever. You're not going to have any problem. Just don't use a magnet near it. But it's, indestructible almost.
And you can just throw that in the wash, right? And
Came in a wallet like this. And then
Yeah, with the 4.
Ooh.
Yeah, the 4 drives in
But-
there, or the tapes.
yeah, this is the original 4.
Hmm.
This is did he give me, I don't think he gave me all 4. I think he just let me borrow 1. So it's probably close to my original. So, and then you could get, where's the other one? Nope. You could also get these that are just basically blank, nothing printed on the front.
Oh,
That were called wallets. They would store 4.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Because I know in the Sinclair, I mean, for the Spectrum, because I've Adam saw a few of them when I brought over the box. But
I saw his collection. He brought it over like this
I-
summer.
Yeah, I probably have about 5 or 6, at least 6 micro drives. Like I said, some of them I'm filing the thing so I can paint them silver, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But then there's a guy that I can't remember his name, but it's called the V drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it uses it fits into a micro drive case. Actually, he sells the cases, which are kind of cool. Or I don't know if he sells them,
Oh,
but
right.
somebody mass produced injection molded micro drive cases, so you can get a new one. And then this thing fits inside of it, and where the slot for the cartridge goes, the SD card goes in there. So it reads it like an SD. It uses the micro drive interface and everything, but you use SD cards instead of micro drives.
I think he
So-
makes that for both the Spectrum and
QL,
TV,
right?
Yeah, and
He
the
makes
QL,
the
yeah.
QL,
Yeah.
yep, and for the Spectrum, yeah.
I think
So I
TJ
have
may
one of
gotten
those.
one.
What's that?
I think TJ may have one of the V drives because he
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to be pure QL. He, didn't want to do any emulators. He wanted just the original hardware. So when he got his QL, he just started playing around with micro drives, and then I think he might have gotten a V drive.
Yeah, I definitely have one of the V drives. I haven't put it together or anything yet, but I have all the, I have it, so it will be, it should work, but it's all solid
Yeah.
state and everything. But
I
that's
know
just
Marcel, there's also Marcel Kilgus who did QPC2 and all the emulator, did do something similar also. He's out of Germany. So Marcel first did QPC, which was the DOS-based QL emulator or SMSQE emulator. Then did the one for Windows, and he also helps maintain SMSQE with a couple other guys.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, because I think the one that guy makes, that replaces your QL, your drives in your QL, the ones that are built into the QL. So now you have just little SD card slots instead of the cartridges, which is kind of cool.
So I have a question it's going to kind of sound ignorant because I don't know much about these Timex systems, but the QL doesn't use any of the same peripherals, right? I mean, it's as the Spectrum, right? It's totally 100% different. I mean, obviously I know it's 68,000 based, but I mean, does it
the only thing used similar was the micro drives.
But they were
Different
like
format.
not compatible with each other, right?
Correct. Different format, but the same physical one could be formatted in one or the other.
Right.
It's not compatible format. Other than that, yeah, totally different. But one thing I think was little used that was nice about the QL was the built-in networking,
Yes.
where from the get-go, you could sit down and put up 3 QLs, network them together, have single floppy connected to one. All 3 could access the floppy.
Well, too bad networking never caught on.
We
I
actually
think the
had
Spectrum did that too, right? The interface 1 has the little
RS-232.
yeah, the little, well, I don't know if it's RS2, well, maybe, but it
No.
just uses
No. It was
audio
a
cable.
a ring tim,
ring
ring
tip.
tip slim,
That's right.
cable. Yeah, and it's like an earphone cable, and it just plugs into each interface 1.
Should I get the interface one out in the garage?
No, I have one too.
Get it.
You have an
Go get
interface 2?
No, just the one.
No interface 2.
There was a
The one with
guy, I
the-
think I got these from Vern Smith years ago. He was a QL guy back in the DC. I think he dumped a whole bunch of stuff onto me. So
Wow.
I got them. Because I remember I was playing with the Spectrum because I was still in DC and doing the TV to channel 30, and playing with, so I think I got it from him, but he had an interface 1. So he also ran the QL emulator on the Atari ST, and then used the ST for the desktop publishing to do the newsletter.
Was that for cats?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I actually used a Sun 3 for doing the newsletter.
Oh my God.
Well, partially. I used it for doing the headline stuff. I had a Sun 3 at work running a program called Alice by Applix. It was a office automation package. I would do the headlines and then print it out and then take it home. Yeah, it was SunOS 3.5 when we first got it. I think it stayed on 3.5 too.
Yeah, and
So I
Adam,
have a question. If people don't mind me bringing this to the group, I'm going to show you guys I don't know if you can see this book. It's archived on the internet. But
Yeah.
I was hoping because I've been wanting to check out some of the video art that's in here, and I was hoping maybe one of you could give me a lead to maybe if there's a collection for this book on tape, or disc or somewhere where I don't have to, because the programs are not short,
Come on,
And,
Adam, it's just an evening. That's like 30 minutes worth of.
Okay, I'll send this to you. All right, and you get going on this right away. Okay, we'll break it up between the group. You get started first. Next month, someone else gets a turn.
Well, don't type it directly into the Sinclair. Type it on a desktop, run it through ZX
Face to tape.
Well, the point is, I don't want to type. I'm hoping like someone typed this in the 80s, or maybe they even had a tape that was released with it. I don't see that mentioned.
I don't think so. I doubt it.
No.
Most I've seen is for type-ins as magazines.
I don't know, try OCR.
yeah, maybe
I've
maybe
tried
scan
OCR
it.
for that kind of thing before, not for this system, but it's not very successful.
But if you
Faster just to type it
do
in.
on a desktop, use ZX Make BAS to convert from ASCII to a TAP file, and then you can just transfer the TAP file to your 2068. That way you still have it in a nice digital format, ASCII format initially.
Well, if I'm going to go through the trouble of typing this, it's getting typed in on real hardware because hell, I've never typed in an actual program except for like little snippets. of
But you know,
code.
it's faster to type it in on the real hardware. What with
Once you learn what all the keys
Sharp
are,
buttons,
maybe.
Once you memorize
Although I
it.
Yeah,
have
you
used
don't
David's
actually,
cheat
you
sheet.
know, yeah, you don't have to actually type out print.
Yeah,
Right.
just press it
Woo!
once.
As much as you guys complained about the ZX81 keyboard, it wasn't designed for typing like normal.
Right.
I learned that you would swipe because you would hit above the key, go hit the key itself and come back out, and then you would feel the depression. So instead of
Yeah, I would-
typing, you were swiping across the keyboard. And I actually got fairly quick at it by just doing, again, swiping across the key instead of
You
actually
get
just trying to-
calluses too that would help you play the guitar at the same time.
So, and then you had to memorize where things are. You can almost touch type because you knew where every single keyword was. Shift that, shift whatever.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, and you know, because Tim actually sent me a his his old PC4. But you know, I was looking at my little pocket computers here, and I'm like, this is probably why I didn't really didn't bother me too much that they had the tokens, because on these they have print and beep and go to and return, and they're all on here, but you have to hit like a shift key to get it to happen, right? Whereas the Timex was more context sensitive, right? It kind of knew what you had to be in the keyword mode, right, when it first starts up. So it's looking for a keyword unless you type a number. But anyway, I was like, wow, maybe that's kind of why it didn't bother me, because these little pocket computers, they have all these tokenized commands for BASIC on the keys themselves. So, but these you could type them out in addition to typing, just hitting the token. But it's just kind of strange. I was like looking at these like, well, that's probably why it didn't bother me too much. I just kind of figured that's how a lot of the machines were back then, because I mean, most of these pocket computers are like that, at least the Casio ones. The Sharp ones, I don't know they have that on there.
Yeah, I don't think the Sharp. I've got the TRS-80 version, and it doesn't look like it does that. So
yeah,
I
I
don't have
have
any
some.
fun things to pull out here. Everyone's pulling out these products. I'm like, well, here's an Astrocade thing. That's all I've got.
I keep seeing Keith pulling out things like, he's looking through old printouts and
Yeah,
Remember,
this
is all
is the
for me,
this
this
is the
stuff I
original
bought years ago.
PC1, right? You see how the screen on it gets black, and then, like I said, some guy reverse engineered the
yeah.
the screen, so he had it manufactured anyway. So I need to replace that. But yeah, this is the original. Well, this is the Sharp version, the PC 1211, but this is the same thing as the Radio Shack, the original one. They just called it the pocket computer back then. It didn't
PC
call it
one.
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
depending on which year you had it, it's either Sharp.
Yeah, once it came, but yeah, looking at the keys on this, it just has like symbols, like this, $, print, parentheses. There's no key, there's no tokenized basic thing. So I think for the Sharps, you're right. They probably didn't do that, but the Casios certainly did. I've got, probably 5 or 6 Casios, and they all have those, tokenized basic commands on their keys.
Hey,
I'm
Adam,
pretty sure Sinclair was the one that invented that with his X80. That particular concept came from
It could
Sinclair.
be, yeah. And I'm not sure the Casio kind of, maybe
Well, the
borrowed
concept,
that.
I mean, not to bring up the Astrocade again, but it was used in '78 on the Astrocade in January.
Oh,
So
was
it's-
it? You had the way the keywords were built into the keyboard?
Yeah, and the basic on the Astrocade
Okay.
that came out in January of, well, the system came out in January of '78, and the basic came out that year in
Never seen an
'78.
Astrocade, so I can't.
Yeah, I
say.
got one after my ZX81. It's a calculator keyboard.
Yeah, it was never meant to have basic. It was, but they put it out there because they never came out with the actual keyboard which they promised, and so they kind of like in the Intellivision world where they came out with some crappy keyboard
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
rather than what they had promised. This is what happened on the Astrocade.
Adam,
Yeah.
you every once in a while ask about, real world applications of
Yes.
these things. And Keith sent me some stuff that he did with some plots, some very slow to plot plots that he did back in the early 80s, Keith?
Yeah, I started with a Timex 1000 in '83, but switched to the 2000 when I got it.
And
But,
you want to talk a little bit about that? Because
It was to generate horsepower curves for the operators in the compressor station I worked at. They were unhappy with the curves because they were inaccurate for our pumping. We pumped natural gas into storage out of, during the summertime and pumped gas out of storage in the wintertime. And the horsepower curves we had were very poor and proved they were very poor by horsepower analyzers. And just using the mathematics, I calculated what the horsepower should be. And but we didn't have a computer to hand out for everybody to use. And this was, like I said, in the early 80s. And the operators were unexperienced, or not experienced with the computers at all. It was my hobby at the time. My boss encouraged me to do it, so I figured out a way to plot the horsepower on paper and generate it, and gave it to the operators, and they were happy with it.
And it took you forever to make the plots.
Yeah, for 40 curves, it took 4 days.
You know, we would put up with it back then.
My wife wouldn't.
Well, that's right. You were running it off on a dot matrix, right?
Yeah, and I set it up at home in my bedroom just so I could, every time it started printing, I'd get up to see if it was printing correctly, and she said, that's got to stop. So I ended up taking it to work and let it run for 4 days to print out all 40 curves.
Wow.
I think
Yeah, I'm sure that went over well.
showed in that email that it, I put in a loop or a counter for loops, how many loops the program was making. It's over 170,000 loops.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that would have taken days.
Do you have any of those printouts available to show anybody, or are they
I've only got
40
two
years
that
gone?
I forwarded 2 of them to David, but one of them was an early version of it that was actually one we used, and the last one that I sent to you with the multiple horsepower curves on it, that one was one I was experimenting with and never finished it completely. But yeah, all the rest of them I left with the company, and I probably have some on disk in the basement, but I'm not sure where I'd find them.
Yeah, so Adam, the PDFs that he sent me, I'm going to upload to the site, and I'll make sure you get a link to that. It's really cool. I mean, the teeth wrote the whole thing up, and the plots are, they have that characteristic Timex font look to them.
Oh, yeah. It's a 6-page typewritten listing of the program.
Oh my God.
I only got this out just to tell Adam that, hey, I typed in 6 pages of that programming and a couple pages is nothing.
So Adam
will come on over. You can type with me. We can have a typing party.
Okay. Adam will give you his address. You just send it to him and he'll retype it for you.
It wasn't fun on the chiclet keyboard, I'll say that, but I like this keyboard. I don't know if you can see it now, but
yeah.
Oh wow.
Keyboard.
That's right. I forgot you were the Auric keyboard guy. Did you get that at Radio Shack?
Yeah.
When they were surplus? Yeah. That was cool.
And if you use Jack Dohany's keyword program, you can type them in like you normally would on any computer. Just type in the keyword, but it might take you longer to do it without the regular chiclet board. But you know your commands, you can type it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Doheny was a member of the Peninsula User Group here in the Bay Area. I remember when I went to go meet that group, he was one of the members there.
So
I only met him one time, but boy, he sent me a lot of information, and we communicated quite a bit either by phone or by mail.
And apparently his main occupation was making wooden toys. Like
it was the Merry Toy. Yeah, he was the Merry Toy Maker.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did that for years. Yeah, I think he moved to somewhere else outside the Bay Area and continued that for a number of years. I do believe he has passed away now.
Yeah, he retired to Georgia. And then,
okay, I saw something in the interview. I saw some stuff on him there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I met him at the toys computer show.
He would bring the toys to just to show off what he did at the user group meetings. But he would go to local flea markets and boutique fairs, things like that, and sell his toys.
I had a question, Tim. Did he always wear plaid flannel shirts, blue jeans, and work boots?
Well, hang on just a sec. I'm going to show you a picture.
I think he always did. He always had that beard too.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, so he moved to Georgia, and this woman wrote a blog post about him. And yeah, so there he is with her 2 kids. And I think, oh yeah, here's another picture of him. But as you said, the plaid.
Yep.
He
Yeah.
always wore, when I saw him, it was just a red flannel shirt, but he looked like a woodsman, was what he looked like.
Well, maybe he changed his color palette when he moved to Georgia.
And while Keith is talking, Keith, you attended the Dayton show at one point, didn't you?
I've been to the Dayton show, the one in Florida, I've been to the one in Indianapolis, been to the one in Cincinnati, been to the one in Washington, D.C., one in Cleveland.
That means you were probably at my house at one point, right?
Yep.
Okay. Because I would, at the Dayton show, about 3 or 4 years, I would hold a barbecue at my house for all the Sinclair attendees.
Great. I read that.
So what happened was I went to one, I was in DC, drove to Dayton, went to one. Everyone goes to like the Red Roof Inn or whatever it was to have dinner. And they're at 3 or 4 different tables. You can't mingle. Once you're at your table, all you can talk to, but I want to talk to him. So I said, screw it. Next time when I live there, I'm just going to invite people over. I rented for $8. I rented a number of chairs, bought some burgers. Another guy locally donated a couple cases of soda, and just had the event at my house. And then I could actually get the chance to meet everyone.
Nice.
So there was a method to my madness.
That's what I say. When's the next one?
It's a bit of a long drive for you guys.
Well, you're in Cali. It's not too far.
In 1998, there was a West Coast QL show, and it was all, I mentioned Marcel Kilgus. He's been here. Simon Goodwin, that name ringing a bell to one.
Yeah.
He was here. Stuart Honeyball and who was the other guy from Miracle Systems? Tony Fershman. I have a picture of myself and a couple of those guys in my hot tub.
Compromising positions.
What's the name of the guy that ran RMG? Is that the name of the?
Rod Gowan of
Rod
RMG.
Gowan, yeah.
I never met him, unfortunately. He's from Oregon.
I was in a motel room with probably about 20 guys, and I was showing some of my software, and he was in the group. I didn't even know he was there. And after most everybody left, he came up to me and he wanted to sell my program.
He would do that. I mean, they would find people here and there and sell it. One of my e-zines, I mentioned there's one particular QL program that sold for thousands of dollars. It actually wasn't just a program. You could buy, the QL came with it. It was a CAD or CAM or something like that. It was, I think it drove a CC mill or something. Some guy must have it as work, wrote it for some purpose, and then tried to sell it. I don't know how many copies, but it was a couple grand.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's similar to the way they sold the video toaster in the late 90s when the Amiga came with it, and they didn't even call it the Amiga. It was just, you got a computer with the video toaster, and you didn't have to know anything about the Amiga. You just used it for one purpose, and that was to do video. So
when I was at Ascii, there was a Japanese manufacturer of some sort of hospital equipment that took an O2 Ascii O2 desktop and just plunked it inside their system, hooked it all up, and you had no idea there was an Ascii desktop inside the unit. It's totally encased. It did some sort of X-ray or something or other.
Crazy.
So we were talking about when we've gotten together recently. Well, Carl came over on Friday for a little while because he dropped off his RGB monitor with me since, oh, by the way, I guess, did you guys get a chance to look at that little letter I typed out to the community on the groups.io? That was like I took a picture of it and I typed it on my RGB monitor, or my HDMI monitor. Yeah. But if any of you guys get a chance to pick up that RGB mod, it is fantastic. I mean, I cannot believe how good the software looks. And it also fixes that stupid problem that you get with composite, which is when you have the not two different colors of gray or black, but sort of, they're supposed to be black, but you don't get black, you get like a gray. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Mm-hmm. The like RGB fixes that.
Yeah,
and it looks
the bright
so good.
Black.
Yeah. It looks so good. We were playing a few games on RGB next to the composite monitor, and so nice. It's like beautiful. It's just so
Yeah,
great.
what really struck me was the color correction,
Yeah.
right? Because you had like yellow, the HDMI monitor had yellow, and your CRT was like white. It was like
Yeah, it was
not
kind of
totally.
yellow. It's sort of, but
I
not
mean, it
right.
was yellow like
Not
on
right.
the edge. It was yellow on the edges, you know,
Yeah,
on
it
the
was.
on the.
I mean, which
but
is
the
surprising
fill,
because. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just saying the fill was white, and I'm like, wow, that's
Yeah.
just. And I, of course, the fringing, you know, with the, especially when you get like magenta and I think green or something, some of these weird colors would really fringe against each other.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, you saw that a lot, and that's, you know, that's what I mentioned, the main clock crystal pot. You know, the you can adjust that to get the fringing to go really, really fast, and then it doesn't look so bad. You know, I mean, you can slow it down where it goes really slow, but you know, because those two clock frequencies are different, right? The main clock for this, for the SALD and the CPU, and then the clock that the LM 1882 or whatever 1889 uses, right? They're two separate clocks, so that's why you kind of get some of that fringing. You know, it would be nice if they would have derived that clock from the main clock, right? Because then it would be locked together.
Yeah.
A little bit better, but in any case, yeah, I mean, you're right. I had to get that little board built that I got for the, you know, the TI 9940. You know, I think Dave, you've got that too, but
I got 50 of those.
yeah, yeah, I bought 6 boards. I think I had 6 boards made, and then I bought all the parts for 6, you know, like so I could put 6 on the. I even got the damn little stencil, right? The solder mask stencil. But anyway, I got to put it together. But that, you know, that hopefully will bear some fruit, because that takes the YPBPR, the video signal directly, right? Which is what the SALD and the 2068 puts out directly, right? So then we should hopefully be able to convert that into RGB, and then you'll maintain the bright, because it'll be getting it right.
From using the software that I've come across on the Timex, I mean, it seems to me like stuff written for the Timex, hardly anything takes advantage of the extra colors. I mean, am I wrong?
It's probably just not apparent. I'm sure there's a lot of software out there that does use it. I mean, I don't have a good example, obviously, but you know, it was a feature of the, you know, if you had 16 colors.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure there's things that took advantage of it, but it's just, at least on the Timex side, right? We can't get that kind of digital signal out of it and still maintain the intensity bit with RGB. Like I said, the Portuguese ones that I have, you know, the Portuguese PAL or the SCLD, they did come out with intensity. In fact, that's how that goes into the video circuitry there to control the brightness of the colors directly in the, you know, on the, you know, the video circuitry inside the computer. It actually uses that intensity bit to change the tank frequency or something like that on the LM 1889 in there. So when intensity is high, you know, it changes the tank frequency, and when it's low, it's a different tank frequency, right? And that's how it gets the 2 different colors on the Portuguese ones, right? You know, but the Timex, yeah, it's all internal. The intensity never comes externally to the, you know, so that's why RGB was a good idea. That's kind of a half-baked thing, if you ask me, because I mean, why come out with RGB and not come out with the intensity, you know, which tons of monitors back then could take RGB and they had an intensity bit input, right? So they could actually do the, you know, brighter and lower colors directly within the monitor. They didn't do that, you know, in the computer. It was just done in the monitor. You know, the computer said, I want this to be bright black or whatever, you know, bright yellow, bright, you know, so it would turn the intensity bit on. It would go to the monitor, and the monitor would make that color choice, right? It wouldn't be inside the computer. But the Timex, you know, well, it was built to be on the TV. So there you go. They didn't really, you know, I think RGB was what they were probably looking for later. And I think once, you know, obviously if they had some more time around, they would have fixed that, right? Maybe they would have put an intensity bit somehow on a later revision of the SLD or something. But because those would have been a much better monitor, right? Display device to have. Is the Spectrum the same with the colors? So yeah, I mean, the Spectrum has bright and non-bright colors as well, but you know, the Spectrum never had any RGB. directly coming out of it.
The black, there's two color, there is no bright black on the Spectrum.
Yeah, I think the
Right.
Spectrum only has 8 colors.
There's
right?
15 colors because there's two colors of black. So it's
Okay.
Right. Yeah, right. That's where the 16 comes in. Yes. Real quick,
I think Alta's trying to speak, but he's on mute.
you're on mute.
You're on mute, Alta.
Alta.
My 2068 had a internal mod. With that mod circuitry, you connected to an EGA monitor, not VGA. Previous to that, on an EGA monitor, and the
Yeah.
screen is crystal clear.
Out of CGA.
Not CGA,
Okay.
EGA.
extended graphics adapter.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I have the monitor right there. I'm not gonna bring it down. It was sold by Sears, but made by I think Japanese manufacturer,
Magnavox, maybe.
Sanya, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
And but my 2068 is in the garage. So one of these days, when I lift it up, I'll send you guys notice. If anybody wants to take a look at it, be my guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the circuitry because, like I said, there is no external intensity bit. So even though it may go to your EGA monitor, it's just going to be the 8 colors.
Could
I
be.
think.
I don't know.
I don't think if you did like bright yellow back, border or bright yellow paper, it would just come up as yellow. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two. I'm pretty sure. But like I said, they fixed that on the Portuguese machines, obviously, because you do have the intensity bit, and I think on those machines it actually comes out to the back, if I remember right.
On the Portuguese, yes.
Yeah, the intensity bit comes out to the back. So, I think that's where Timex was heading, but they just, they needed to get that thing out the door, right? They were, like everything behind schedule and the beyond budget and all these other things. So they just, that's why, like I said, the 2068 as we have it is really, their best effort. They needed to get something out the door by that Christmas, and that's what they put together. So there's still a lot of, things that they wanted to do, and there's a lot of bugs in the machine, obviously, as we all know, or maybe we don't all know, but there's a lot of bugs in that machine. Luckily, they don't rear their head too much, but like I said, they really were under the gun to get something out the door.
Well, and to be fair, under the constraints that they were working, they actually did a pretty damn good job with what they had.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I agree too. That's.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it stood the test of time. Here we are 40 years later, and
we're using them.
Tim is still using it for his word processing, although I guess that's the QL, but
Right. No, that's Jim. He's QL.
Remember, in those days, a year computer-wise was almost like 10 years now, because every year you would just, 6 months even, you could have a whole change of technology. It was so fast to go from like the ZX80 to the ZX81, the Spectrum, and just, within a year they came with new machines, and they're all incompatible. You look at the VIC-20 versus the C64 versus the Commodore 128. That was on a short period of time.
So, Jim, you make a good point. The 128 was announced at the same time as the 2068.
Oh, was
you sure?
Yeah, I was doing some digging recently, and I came across that, and I was like, "What?" And yeah, it was an issue of InfoWorld or something where I saw that.
I didn't follow the Commodores all that closely. I had a friend that had a 128. His
Yeah,
idea
I had a
was
128.
we had a
85.
Coco that wasn't good enough about the 128. That wasn't good enough to while about something else. And
yeah,
he kept claiming they kept getting slower over time. I'm like, no, your perception is getting faster. It's not getting slower.
Well, the 128 is actually 2 machines in one, right? There's a Z80 processor in there and
we could do CPM.
Yeah, but the problem with doing CPM, because I did play around with CPM on there, is it runs at half speed because they use the ROM calls to 6502 somehow with this Z80, so it slows it down tremendously.
Well-
I mean, it works still, but it's It's-
The other
it's a-
problem as well is that it takes 3-ish clock cycles for a Z80 to do anything. So you get a big slowdown there too.
Right, right.
That reminds me of, since you mentioned CPM, I bought a Clum, I went to the manufacturer. Oh, Intertech Superbrain 2
Oh my God.
CPM machine.
Wow.
It looks like an Atom 3. I bought it in.
it looks like an Atom
was it?
3. Is that what you said?
Adam.
It
Oh,
looks
like a
the
Coleco Atom?
ADM 3, yeah.
Okay.
No.
No?
The Lear Sigler Atom 3.
ADM.
Anyhow, it
Okay.
basically looks like classic. Yeah,
You're just making up computers now. I know it. I
bought
know
that
it.
probably, must have bought that like in 90. Then I saw the price for it. I bought it in 90 for like $50. That was kind of my limit at the time. The cost of more than 50, think about it. So maybe 50, maybe 75. It sold for like $2,000 in like 82.
Mhm.
Oh, like,
Wow.
in 5 years, it went from like, actually, no, it was like 3,000 because it came with the extra. So it went from like 3,000 to $50 in 5 years.
Mm.
That's
Right.
the depreciation. I didn't realize at the time. That's the serious depreciation.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how
Uh,
things happened back then.
So it's 11. So it's time for, it's 11 on the East Coast. Let me rephrase that. It's time
Yeah.
for some of you guys to go eat dinner. We have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks on a Sunday. I'll have to double check. The 60th, yeah, on a Sunday at 2 p.m. on a Sunday, so that the folks in Europe can join us. And the guy who does the Load ZX Museum is gonna join us,
Oh,
and,
that's too bad.
and whomever else.
That's
I'll
exact
send
same.
out,
I have
send
a,
out reminders about that one too.
I have a
Okay.
sci-fi book club meeting that day at that time, actually. So I won't be there, but that's too bad.
Go ahead and just cancel that, Adam. You can give us an update
I just
on,
show
on
up.
your
I'm
typing
not in
in
control
of
of that.
the programs while you.
You probably have multiple
Yes,
windows.
yes. Sci-fi books will be around forever too.
Yeah,
so-
yeah. We're just
That's
talking
right.
about Kurt Vonnegut, so
Paper lasts forever. He's not a sci-fi author.
I
I
hate
agree with you.
Vonnegut.
I agree with you.
I
You should come to
just
the meeting.
read
You can talk about it.
Pat's Cradle.
Yeah,
I
Cat's
just
Cradle is
Read
what we're
Pat's
talking about.
Cradle. It's horrible.
Well, you can come to the club. I'm telling you, we're all going to get together in Albuquerque. We'll take our 2068s. We'll talk about sci-fi. Get those
Wow.
people from Europe to come too.
I'm down. I think we got to go to New Mexico.
So I'll send a reminder about that.
I have
Anyway.
a local friend whose father knew some author to the point where one of the books was dedicated to him. I wish I remember what author it was. Was it Haldeman? I can't remember who it was. I have to go find out.
Tony Haldeman, the
No, Joe Haldeman.
oh, okay, Joe. Oh, that's right, Joe. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
I've got to go find out who it was, and I'll pass it on. So
yeah, cool.
And if anybody has any 1500 cartridges, man, let me know. Stuart. I don't know if Stuart ever had any of those, but I got the 1510,
hard.
but I don't have any cartridges, because they only made two. I think they
Miles,
only made two.
I think I have one, Carl. But I'll have to go.
1500
I'll have to go
cartridge?
dig.
Okay.
I'll let you know. I'm pretty sure.
I have nothing to put into it,
Well, it's not a good one. Whatever it is, I have. It's
Right. I
maybe
don't
states
think-
and capitals.
Yeah, I don't think they only made two cartridges. And I don't think either of them were really anything great, but
I'll go dig. I know I have something odd, some oddball cartridge that looks like a 2068, but it's not.
yeah, I think they're identical. I think they look exactly the same.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
But anyway,
Thank you,
Can I
everybody.
just close out with one quick thing?
Is
If
it
any
about
of you
typing in
stay up
programs?
late, if anyone stays up late tonight at 4 o'clock in the morning, local time, wherever you are, there's going to be the peak of the meteor shower. So if you head out, you'll be able to see like 20 or 30 meteors, I don't know, an hour or so. If any of you are into that kind of
It's
thing.
10 degrees
4 a.m.
here.
what time zone?
Well, it's about 18 degrees here, so it's cold.
Come to Florida.
Yeah.
yeah, you
All right,
probably
I
have
had
a
a good
better
time.
view out there. Yeah.
Florida's too hot.
Yeah, and the cockroaches. All right.
Bye, guys.
All right, see you guys later.
All right. Have a
See
good
you
one,
guys.
guys.
Night, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, I haven't forgotten to send you the documentation I have.
Cool.
but I haven't gotten to my garage yet. So whenever I do that, I'll pack you.
Okay, sounds good. All right, bye.
Try and get that chat there too, David.
Oh, I did. I captured it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll
I
send
think
that
I
out.
know there's a way. Yeah, I know there's a way to capture it in there too. All right. Anyway, guys, good
Bye.
meeting. We'll see you
Bye.
next time. Good night.